In this session, we are going to have a look at some functions that SQL Server provides. So there are many types of functions that SQL Server provides that is inbuilt. One of them being aggregate functions, right? So you have a set of rows and you want to find the averages, you have to find the sum, you find the count, and so on and so forth. The second set of aggregate functions that you would commonly use is string functions, right? You have a lot of data that is just text data, and you want to manipulate that text data, right? Something like convert everything to uppercase, or convert everything to lowercase, or concatenate two strings, something like that. So those things would be really very useful when you want to do that operation. So let's look at some examples. And what we are going to do here is we are going to reuse a table that we created. You remember we created the my salary table, and we're going to run some aggregate functions in that one. Okay, so let's first look at the my salary table. So I'm going to say select star from my salary. And sure enough, we just have 3 rows. We kept it very simple. And what we're going to do is we are going to find the average of the salaries. That is average of 10,000, 8,000, and 6,000. That is this column. And the way you can do that is using an inbuilt function called select avg or average, and you give the column name, right? And it'll automatically add them and divide by 3, and it'll give you the result, 8,000. Now similarly, if you just want to get a count, right, there is an inbuilt function called count of salary and from my salary. So it's basically 3 entries. Okay, now tell me what will happen if I write something like this: select count of star from my salary, basically saying count of everything. What will happen? You will still get 3 because it's a row wise operator and it's just counting the number of rows. Okay, all right, let's proceed and let's open up our table again and write some other function. So what we'll do is we'll find the summation of all the rows, that is 10,000 plus 8,000 plus 6,000, and the way we do it is using the function called sum of salary from my salary, right? So let us execute both of this. So 10,000 plus 8,000 plus 6,000 is 24,000. Okay, let's look at something else. Let's find the minimum salary. So your minimum salary is 6,000 from the whole table, and so the way you do it is using the word min, the keyword min, salary from my salary. Minimum is 6,000. And similarly, you can extend that same idea to find the maximum salary as well. So these are some of the functions that are inbuilt to perform some aggregations. So of course, when you query, you will use where clauses and stuff. Give me average month wise, or give me average year wise. That's where your group by clauses and all those come into picture. Give me just the average of distinct rows, something like that. But you get to combine these different set of functions to kind of manipulate your data. All right, so once we have this, let's move forward. Let's look at some string functions. And for string functions, what we're going to do is we're going to use the my order table that we created just in the last session. So select star from my order, and just 4 rows to keep it simple. Some order 1, 2, 3, 4. This is when we played around with joins. We created this. So let's look at a concept of concatenating 2 strings, right? And the way we do it is you can just first of all write something like this: concat my string 1 and my string 2. Oops. String 1 comma string 2. So this is how we get it. If you want to put a space just to make it look nice. So the concatenate function or concat function basically takes a set of parameters and just joins them together or concatenates them together. So if we were to concatenate strings from this table, let's try out something like this. Select order number, order name, and let's say concat my order name, give it a space with itself, right? Just order name space order name. And let's also give this an alias as concatenated text from my order. Let's see if this works. Sure enough, you see that it basically concatenated the same values, and that's the result. Okay, now since I have you here, let me show you something else. Let's concatenate with a random number so that we look at one more function. It is called RAND, random function, and it'll just return, a random number. I believe it's between 0 and 1, but I'm not sure. Yep. Okay. All right. So now, since we are playing around with string functions, sometimes you would like to not concatenate a string, but to take just a portion of your string, right? One example I can give you is in one of the databases I've been dealing with, it stores email messages, right? It has a column to store a subject line, it has a column to store some body and stuff like that. And typically this data basically says that in the subject line of the email, the first 5 characters would be some product ID followed by a colon and followed by some custom subject line. So I wanted to extract the first 5 characters from the subject line that is a string. The way we do it is, there are many ways to do it, and let me show you some of them. One is using the left function. The left function goes something like this. Select, and let's say order number, order name, and what I want is the first 5 characters in the left side, right? So I want from my order name only the first 5 characters. Let's see what the results look like. So sure enough, it gave me just the 5 characters. Now similarly, you can do the same for your right also, and the function name is just called right. Let me put a comment here so that it's easier, and it gives you from the rightmost part 5 characters. We looked at left, we looked at right. Now what if you want just something in the middle, right? How would you do that? And the way we do that is using something called as a substring. Substring is again an inbuilt function, and what you can do is select order number, order name, and we use substring. And the way this works is you give the column name and say that, okay, I need from character number 2 to character, and go 5 places to the right from character number 2. Let's look at the results. That will give you a good idea. So from my order, and you see that what it did was it started from character number 2 and went up till 5 places to the right. So if I say something like 3, it'll start from character number 3 and go to 5 places, and so on and so forth. So this is where you need to do something in the middle, right? You need to do some string manipulations right in the middle. Okay, now you see the order name column, everything is in uppercase. What if I want to just make everything as lowercase? The way we do it is using the lower function. So select order number, order name, just to look at it, and I say that, use the lower function and give me just the order name in lowercase. So it just converted everything to lowercase. And naturally, you can use the same thing to convert everything to uppercase also. And the keyword is pretty much, you must have guessed it, it's called upper. And this will give you the uppercase characters. Okay, great. So we looked at uppercase, we looked at lowercase. How about we look at the length? I mean, many times you might want to know what is the length of the string, and we will look at some examples where you would use it. But the way you can get the length is using the len or length function, which is again inbuilt. Just count the characters, count the number of characters in your column in your input, and return an integer. So everything is 10 characters and it returns an integer. All right. Now let's look at let's try to do something interesting. Let's combine a couple of functions. What I want to do is, in this order name, I want to display the first letter in uppercase and remaining everything in lowercase, right? So how do you do that? Well, there are many approaches to do that, and one of the way is, let's say order number, order name, and the way I'm going to do it is using the CONCAT function, right? I'm going to convert the first letter to an upper and convert everything else to lower, and I'm going to concatenate both. So how can we do that? So first thing is I need to convert the first one to upper, so I'm just going to use the left function and get the order name and just take one character. So this will give me the the first letter in uppercase. Then what I want to do is I want to say convert. So I'm saying let's say, okay, next I want to select from character number 2 to end of string, right? So again, it's basically the substring function, and what I need to do is order name from character number 2 to end of string. Now how do I know end of string? It's very simple. We use the length function to get the length of string, right? And we just concatenate both of them. Simple. Hopefully this should work. Let's see. Oops, this didn't work. Oh, wait. Substring. I need to convert this to lower. Okay, this. Perfect. So you see that this basically took the first character, converted into upper. Then it took from second character to end of the string, that converted to lower, and we just concatenated both these strings. So this is one example where you would use your string manipulations and stuff like that. The other one I wanted to show you was the trim functions. Now many times your data may contain spaces, right? Something like this. My text, some custom text, space, 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 space. So naturally this, it accounts for spaces as well. And the way you can actually see that is, if you run a length function over this, it'll actually count the spaces as well. So you see the length is 10, right? And the way you can remove these spaces is there are multiple functions, the two functions actually. One is remove spaces on the left side and remove spaces on the right side. So it's called the left side L trim or the left trim. And you just insert it's a function. So if you just write L trim and your text, it'll basically remove the spaces from the left side of the text, but it'll still retain the ones on the right side. And by now you must have guessed, to remove them from right hand side, you basically use the R trim. Now if you want to remove spaces from both, you rightly guessed it, you use both, left trim and then right trim. Okay, so these are some of the examples where you would use these functions, and I think we have covered quite some of the critical stuff that you would require: some date manipulation, some string manipulation, aggregate functions and stuff, which you would typically require in your day-to-day work or analysis that you would ever need to do.